Okay. And so I don't know if that means it's going to record to my computer or to the cloud. It didn't let me choose which, it just started.
Oh,
So whatever it does, if it goes to my computer, I'll like upload it to Google Drive and I'll send you a link so that you can get it that way. And if it
sounds
goes to
good.
the cloud, I'm guessing it's going to go to your cloud, not mine. And so then you'll have
Uh,
to figure that out.
yeah, I don't know if the cloud is, but
Yeah.
anyways, is it recording right now or like?
It says recording, yeah. So you have to chop the
Oh,
beginning off. Yep. Chip, chip.
all right. I guess we could start with the intros if you like.
Yeah, sure.
Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Martinez, and I'm here with Lurk. I pronounced it
Lyric.
right.
Lyric.
Lyric.
Lyric Lark.
Lyric.
Lark is my
Lyric.
middle name, but yeah, close.
Oh, Lyric. Because I remembered your name from last time, and I remember it's Lurk or Lyric.
Lyric Lark, yeah. That's the middle name. They're
Got it.
both good.
All right, now I remember. So, so, anyways, guys, we're here to talk about how kids grow up on the autism spectrum and how they figure out their identities on the spectrum as well.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Lyric. I'm an autistic adult. I found out I was autistic when I was 29. So I grew up through childhood not knowing I was autistic. But something that I found and a lot of, I think, other autistic people and neurodivergent people who find out they have brains that work very differently than the rest of the population late in life is even though I didn't have a label for what it was that made me different, I felt myself struggling to do things that other people took for granted, things that other people thought, oh, this is easy. It was like, this is really hard. I can't even do this. How do you think this is so easy? And those differences and those ways in which I struggled and didn't, air quotes, measure up, to the expectations of people around me really were hard for me. And I felt like I was just an incompetent human being because I couldn't do things that other people thought were easy. And I didn't understand myself. I thought I was a broken neurotypical, basically, for most of my life, a broken non-autistic person. And finding out I was autistic and then finding out I also have ADHD, it's been life changing for me. And letting me like accept myself and have self compassion because I was really hard on myself for a lot of years up until finding out, oh, it's not that I'm a failed person. My brain just works differently. So there are things that other people might take for granted that aren't so easy for me. But also, now that I can see things more clearly in a more balanced way, I say, oh, well, there's also strengths and skills I have that I most likely wouldn't have if my brain didn't work the way it did either. So it's not all good, it's not all bad. It's just kind of a simple part of my existence, and embracing both aspects, the good, the bad, the hard, the great. All of that has been really important to my identity and who I am as a person.
Hmm. That's really important to keep in mind, especially growing up on the spectrum where you're at that phase where you might grow up in a time period in the 90s, 80s, or perhaps in the early 2000s where you kind of grow up thinking you're like the other kids, which pretty much how I thought about it when I was growing up, because to me, it kind of felt like it never occurred to me what this autism spectrum was. And like when I went to middle school, my teacher kind of assumed that I always knew, but it's like I kind of always saw myself like with other people as the same. So it's like when you hear the news, it's like, what's that?
Oh yeah, totally. One thing I remember about finding out I was autistic is I remember like from a very like young age and from like early parts of my life thinking everyone else is so weird. Why is everyone else so weird? I was like, why isn't anybody else logical about things? Like, why are these kids so childish? Like, 'cause I hung out with older kids and so kids my age, and so I was like, these kids are unpredictable, irrational, and childish. I don't like them. It's like I was like overwhelmed by the chaos of other people, and I thought everyone else, was kind of the problem. And now I realize I'm not the problem. They're not the problem. The problem is that we don't understand and respect each other when we have differences in how we process the world and sensory information and social engagements. And so we don't leave a lot of space for people who communicate differently or move differently, or just maybe are just have that different train of thought in conversation where we're all over the place. But there's not a lot of space for those things. And so, oh, dogs. Ah. Yeah, fun.
I think
I didn't realize the blinds were open. My apologies for the loud noise.
oh,
We have our neighbor has a lot of cats, and the dogs do not appreciate the cats. It's that age-old dog versus cat battle. Hi guys.
dog versus cat battle.
Oh no, there's a kitty in the yard.
We have a dog of our own. We have like a black Labrador of our own, so you're not alone there.
Come here, Dizzy. Hi, come here, big butt. Come here. Let's see. There's a big black dog right here. He's the one making all the noise. Yeah, he's the one that was making all the noise. Actually, he's got a big, deep voice.
Yeah, our dog has a deep voice too. She's a girl, and her name is Mila.
Oh, Dusty is 90 pounds of love. He's a good kid. He's actually a big teddy bear. Like his temperament is like Scooby-Doo. Like he really has the personality of Scooby-Doo. He's a very nervous dog. He sounds ferocious, but he's not ferocious at all. The opposite. Big teddy bear. Big teddy bear. I'm under the table now. It's like, okay, don't knock my light over.
In all honesty, animals are much better than people sometimes in some situations.
Oh, totally. When I was a young person, I think animals were, especially like my dog was my first like real best friend, because this tail, because the animals, as long as you're nice to them and you treat them well, they will treat you the same, and they don't judge you. That's all they care about is like, are you a nice person, and are you my friend? And they don't have ulterior motives, which is great, because unfortunately, especially growing up, I found out like when I got to be a teenager and even younger that people often have ulterior motives, and I don't always spot them in time, which sucks a lot.
Technically, in the way, I think sometimes dogs do have interior motives, because sometimes Mila, she would stand by me or cuddle next to me, then I'll just realize, oh, she just wants a treat.
Well, hey, how is that different than like a kid coming and asking their parent for a treat? They don't have words. Like the dog can't come up and say, hey, I would like a treat, please. They've got to communicate in another way without words.
Dogs can have big personalities.
Oh yeah, we've got 4 dogs, and they all have big, different personalities. This guy has the biggest personality of all. He's the tiniest one. I made him nervous. Let me put it back down. He licked his lips, and that means he's nervous. I'm like, I'm sorry.
He does lick the camera.
Well, he just wants to be asleep in my lap. It's nicer than being lifted and bothered. I bother him. I have a space heater under my table, so it's nice and warm.
I lift Mila, but she's too heavy now to lift. It would take a whole day for me to lift her up.
Oh yeah, no. The other 3 don't get lifted. They're bigger. They're too much. Too much.
Yeah. But I guess growing up, I always wanted a dog, but I guess in the beginning, for Mila, to be honest with you, I didn't really want a dog in the beginning, but I guess after a while, dogs kind of grow into you.
Oh yeah, totally. I wanted a dog like for a really long time when I was little. I like always knew I wanted a dog, and I think I got my first dog and I was like, oh, I don't know, elementary school. I don't know how old I was. I'm bad with timelines in my head. But he was my buddy. It was so great to have a dog when as a young person I was really alone a lot of the times, and then having that companionship, it helped me build a bridge, because it was like the first thing I felt like I really had such a strong attachment and a bond with that eventually I think, later I started to bond with, making a chosen family and those kinds of things. I started to experience that more. But I think having animals in my life, dogs, horses, cats, whatever, was so important to me. And, feeling like I wasn't misunderstood because the rest of the world misunderstood me a lot.
Yeah, especially when it comes to people on the spectrum and dogs, because I don't know if you noticed around the online, but I've kind of noticed that there's like a large amount of people on the spectrum that have canine dogs or like emotional support animals.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, there's so many co-occurring medical conditions that can, go with autistic people or just people in general that dogs can be helpful with. If you're overwhelmed or having sensory overload, or you're, about to have a meltdown, your dog can like help lead you out of a place. If, my dog Sadie, she has bad knees and she doesn't work. And so she was training to do service dog work for me because she would do medical alert for me. Um, and she's retired out of it now. She's really naughty. She's the naughtiest of all of them now that she doesn't work. But it's amazing because she did that on her own. We didn't teach her to do the medical alert. She just was just so in tune and connected with me that she could detect things in my body before I could detect them. And it's like I don't even know how she could do that. um Dogs are just so amazing. They have that love to give, and it's like she would sense something was off in me and she would just worry and jump up on me. Or if I ever have a meltdown, should still, if I have a meltdown, I'm pretty sure she still to this day jump up in my lap and try to like lick my face and my nose until I was okay. Like she doesn't want me to ever not be okay. She's so sweet. She has such a big heart.
You know, dogs are such unique creatures when you think about not that I'm comparing people on the spectrum to dogs, not like that, but like I'm only comparing the social aspect because with dogs, they have untinged filter, like where they don't have a filter and they're themselves. And just the same thing applies with people on the spectrum for some of us that don't have a filter, that if that makes sense, where
I
it's
don't know. I kind of get what you're getting at too, because like with me, like if I'm relaxed and I'm really happy, it's like you can see it, like my hands are doing this and I'm like so happy, right? The dog is the same. The dog's tail is doing this. Like the dog's tail is like a little stimming rod that like tells you how the dog's feeling. Like if you watch it, like all those stims that I do mean something. And I can read I've like since I was very young, I could read dogs body language. Even in like elementary school when I got my puppy, like I started learning dog body language real quick. But I'm good at reading almost any animal body language, but dogs were so easy. And I found that until I found out I was autistic and started actively studying human body language and facial expressions, like in the last 5 years, I just started being like, oh, that's something I should know and pay attention to. I had no idea. It just didn't occur to me. But now I'm learning how to read human body language and human things. But like, I think autistic people, like I get to be around more autistic people now. And I find like I can read autistic people's body language easier than I can read neurotypical body language. Because like we're happy, we're like, oh yeah, look at those happy hands. I know what that means. Or like if someone's scared, I can see that. It's much more visual, more, no, it's funny. Like they say we can't communicate with nonverbal signals. It's like maybe those neurotypicals or those non-autistic people, maybe people who are outside of uh you know being neurodivergent, maybe their body language is just much more like toned down, makes it harder to spot. I don't know, you know.
yeah, it is, especially when they're trying to tell you to be quiet and stuff. Like sometimes I would like be unfiltered and say things I'm not supposed to say, and then sometimes my friends or whatever would just like they would give me hints, like say they would do this face expression towards me. I'm like, what's going on? What are you doing? Do you need water? They're like, and then they're trying to tell me to be quiet because I was saying something wrong, and I'm like, why did you just say that? Why did you have to make those
Yeah.
face expressions?
Yes, exactly. I don't, I'm not very subtle. Like I'm not a subtle person in general, and I don't pick up on subtlety. very well, unless I know I need to be watching for it. Like if you tell me going in, like that there will be some subtle thing I need to look for, I can, I can prep myself and be overly prepared to like watch for some subtlety, and hopefully I won't miss it then. It's more likely, but just tell me. Just tell me. People like, at least personally, people can be really blunt with me, like really blunt, really honest. It's not gonna hurt my feelings. Like I rather someone be upfront and honest with me and tell me, like, especially if it's like I'm said something that hurt your feelings or you think I'm being rude, and like just let me know, because a lot of times that's not my intent. And if you don't just be like, why did you say that? That hurt. Or did you mean to, come off rude? And it's like, no, wait, hang on. Where's the miscommunication? But a lot of times people just get passive aggressive, shut down, not say anything, assume I should know what the heck I did. And I have no idea something's happened. I just know all of a sudden someone's mad at me and I don't know what happened. I don't know why, but it happens so many times where all of a sudden someone's mad at me and it's like, I must have missed some social cue or some memo or that did some faux pas that I'm unaware of. And it's, countless times, more than I can count.
Yeah, I've said a couple of things I shouldn't have. There was this one time I had this teacher. I'm not going to name her just out of respect. She once told me, "Do you know anything different, Charlie?" And I said, "You have a new scarf." She started laughing and she told me that she was pregnant. And
Oh,
I told her I couldn't really tell. And I kind of dropped the ball there, and my folks were right next to me there, and they were like,
I don't
"Charlie,"
know. Did you drop the ball?
because
Because
like
I thought you're not supposed to tell a woman if she looks pregnant. Isn't that like, I don't know. See, that's I don't know what the see, I would probably have done it wrong too, because I'm like, oh, you can't, like, I think that's a rule. You're not supposed to tell people if you think they look pregnant. She ripped the curtain down, so now that I can't keep them from looking out the front window. I had to put them all in my
oh
bedroom.
well. But anyways, I thought I was
Naughty.
being nice because you know how for some people on the spectrum we're pretty blunt.
Oh yeah.
I After that encounter, I told my mom it was kind of hard for me to tell that she was pregnant because I don't like making comments about people's bodies like that. But it was hard for me to tell she was pregnant because she was a bit chunky. But
Yeah.
as a kid, back at the time, I kind of didn't know that it wasn't right to make comments like that.
Oh yeah.
So it's
Oh my
like
gosh. Yeah.
if you said something like that today, then yeah, that's a no-no.
Oh yeah. And like I've done that even as an adult, like put my foot in my mouth and said something, and then after the fact my partner's like, did you realize like you said that and it came off like this, and like that's not a cool thing to say. And I'm like, oh. Or like there was like once there was like some tragedy that had happened and I didn't know because I don't watch the news really, because the news is full of tragedy, and they were talking about like debris from this like tragedy that had happened, like something blew up or some storm hit. I don't remember what it was exactly now. And like there's, Sadie, no ma'am, please. And so there was debris everywhere, and they were saying, oh, there's enough trash to cover a football field. And I was like, oh, that's really gross. What on earth? Why do they have so much trash? Like I didn't understand they were talking about cleanup from a natural disaster. And it was like, wow, I sound really cold and heartless because I'm like, ew, there's trash everywhere. That's so gross. I didn't know there was like a storm, or I didn't know what had happened. I had no idea. So it was like, oops, foot in mouth. Like someone told me like later, and I was like, that woman probably thought I was so, hey kid, that's not okay. So cold and uncaring.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one in that circumstance because it's like Sometimes we come off in the wrong way, but with good intentions sometimes.
Muting. I'm on mute. I'm on mute. So that's the thing. It's like the story of my life being misunderstood and people not realizing that I'm not trying to be like catty or I don't know. I don't know. Like people take me wrong. People, yeah, I come off as too pushy or it's hard to even say, too aggressive, too snarky, too much. Like I'm too much. People are like, you're too much, too much. I'm like, I don't know how to be any other way though, really, unless I'm just gonna sit in the corner and not say anything. It's like I'm either way too much or not enough, and I don't know how to be in between.
Usually when someone tells you you're too much, it's kind of like someone asking you to be someone you're not. Like
Oh
you,
yeah.
it's kind of like you can't stop someone from being who they are. And like at the same time, I get called out for things, my mistakes, and I acknowledge them. But like, I guess as people, we just keep growing up as we get older.
Yeah. And it's just, it's hard. It's hard being misunderstood so much. That it wears on you after a while. It wears after a while. Like finding out I was autistic, at least it was like, oh, at least I understand where some of these understandings are coming from. And now it's like I know to check and make sure there hasn't been a misunderstanding more, I guess, if it's someone I care about, because I also realized I don't care as much about correcting misunderstandings of some people sometimes now. I'm like, my energy is finite and I have to decide what battles I want to pick and who gets pieces of that energy because yeah, I only have so much.
It's like you get all the social energy, and you're like, okay, so I'm gonna have to divide it in between like pieces of pie. So I'm gonna give this guy, this person a slice, this other person a slice, and then I'm done for the day.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I've got to keep some of my energy for myself too. I used to just give it all away, and then it's like, oh well, I can't pour for an empty cup. It's such a cheesy saying, but I like it, and like it's like one of my mantras. It's been one of my mantras for years, like because I was just burning myself out until I had nothing left, and then it was like the people important to me, the people I cared about, the people I cared about most I had nothing else to give them because I was giving myself away to everyone, and it didn't leave me any time for the things that bring me joy or the people that are most important in my life.
It's kind of like how like your work, like being a autism advocate, must be kind of rewarding and kind of like tough too, because you have like all these schedules and appearances.
Yeah, it's I've had to like really figure out how to like manage that because people don't realize that there are like social expectations are exhausting in any form for me because I'm constantly like overthinking every social encounter I go into. I'm having to get the words out of my mouth to talk back and forth with another person is always complicated because I'm a visual thinker and I process externally by talking to myself or by writing a lot of the times. And like I don't naturally like think in words either. So having a conversation with someone, it's like, hey. It's like switching into a set of skills that's unnatural to me. It has a taxing. It's taxing. Hey, you're okay. And so she's like, I am not okay. Hang on. Open the door. So it's tiring, and I've had to figure out how to work around it. So now I do like no more than 2 days a week where I have calls with other people 1 or 2 days a week, and then the rest of the time I really am working quietly on my own and doing things where I don't have to engage with people. And on the weekends and in my spare time, I'm very much rarely engaging with anyone. I'm very solitary with the exception of the 4 dogs and my partner that I live with. And we go run away into the woods and recharge with nature and do my silly dancing and flow arts and walk by the rivers and do all these things that are just letting it all turn off, because I feel like I'm just perpetually overwhelmed, all the time, because there's just so many demands and a lot of them are my own fault. So I have myself to blame for every single one of them for the most part because I agree to things.
Well, best advice I could give you is when you have a full cup, make sure you have some for yourself and others.
Yes. Yes, I like that. Oh, that's so good to add that on to the full cup thing. I appreciate that. That's a great one.
That should be like your motto. Like if you have a full
have a sip. It's gotta already be a thing. That's so good. It has to already be a thing.
You have a full
I can't
cup
steal
of
it from you if it's not a thing.
No. Technically, I think someone's already said that, and I don't even know if anyone made that yet.
I don't either. We'll have to go Google it and see. I know the full cup, the empty cup thing is like old, but it's something I've been using for a while, even before I found out I was autistic. Or when I found out I was autistic, I started using it because I was always running my cup on empty, which is why I burned out.
If we just invented it, then that's pretty neat. I just thought about since you mentioned the empty cup.
Yeah, I'm always like now. I almost like always assume that anything, even if I've never heard it before, I say has probably already been invented. Like I'm just like it's probably already invented because every time I think I've like created something original or had an original idea, you go look to the internet and you find out, oh no, somebody's been doing this for 5 years. Even if you like thought of it on your own, it's like so many things have been done already.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's like I don't know if anyone else came with the idea, but it's like, okay, just for today, we claim it as our own until someone else comes up and says, "Hey, we already invented that."
Yeah. I'll have to go to the Google after this. Go to the Googles.
Well, it was really nice talking to you today.
Oh yeah, always great chatting with you today. Or any day, today, any day. Words.
Well,
Thanks
everyone,
for inviting me.
No problem, Lyric. Well, everyone, this will conclude today's video, and I'm really glad you all tuned in today's video. See y'all later.